Greetings, listeners. This is Thrice, a Sinister Siblings podcast. Welcome to part 2 of our Baghead episode, where we've just watched Baghead for the second time. We're back to give you our thoughts, feelings, and opinions.
Yes, so I'm Mark. I'm one of the Sinister Siblings, so although it's probably been a short period for you guys, it's actually been around about 3 months, I think, since we saw this one at the cinema.
Yeah.
So we've just sat down to watch it on DVD now. So obviously, as I said, I'm Mark. You just heard from Adam, and the third one we've got on our Sinister Siblings team is
Tracy, the other Sinister sibling. So yes, we've just watched our DVD, but I think you can also probably by this point watch Baghead on streaming if you so desire. So yes, part 2. So having watched it once.
What platform is it on? Is it doing it?
it's on Shudder in the States. I think might be on Prime here in Australia.
There you go.
Okay.
So before we jump right into the film, I'll probably give you just some of the in-between times. So first time we went and saw it at the cinema. It's pretty much, looking at the numbers now, it looks like it's finished doing its cinematic rounds around the world. According to the website thenumbers.com, which is always a good place to get some of these details, it ended up with a gross of about $5.5 million at the box office. So I did a little bit of digging around to see if we could get any real details about the budget. Apart from it being a, quote, low-budget film, there wasn't really much out there. But I'd be inclined to think that at $5.5 million, when you think some of that comes out to go to the cinemas and for advertising and bits, I'm not even sure whether this film would have broke even. I feel like that's probably not big money. I mean, there's a fair bit on the screen there still. I know we talked about last time around the low-budget elements for it, but what do you think, Adam? Do you think this one potentially flopped a little bit?
Well, I don't know. I couldn't even say. It would be a complete guess for me to hazard what this movie cost to make, and I don't know anything about the business side of things in that respect.
Speculate away.
I'm going to speculate that it didn't make money, if at $5 million.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a big box office taking, does it?
No.
But were the reviews, was it well received? Like in general, has it been a well received film?
Well, I had a look just before we started. Well, according to the back of the DVD
yeah,
case.
according to the
Gives it
DVD.
4 stars on the back of the DVD case.
There's about 8,200 ratings on IMDb at the moment. Take that as you will, and the average for that's 5.4.
Okay.
So most people are giving it a 5 or a 6 on IMDb. But yeah, like I said, it's not a huge sample size of sort of just a bit over 8,000 ratings, but you know that's where that one's sitting.
I guess it's always, well, not always, but it can be the thing. Like, you know, did this film set out to change horror, or did it just set out to tell a story, or change film? Did it just set out to tell a story, to tell it well, to have people engage with it? Was that perhaps enough? You know what I mean? It's kind of interesting to sort of try and have a think about what were the objectives.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, maybe they're really, really happy with how this has gone. Maybe they, you know, actualized it the way they'd sort of seen it. Like, because we know it came from the short film. Maybe this was perfect for them. Maybe they were like, yeah, this was a winner. I'm really proud of this piece.
Well, why not? I mean, I do like that about it, actually. It's like, it's a movie that it knows what it is. It's very much like, you know, tropey. It's working with the genre. We're making a horror movie. Here's our horror movie. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's only 92 minutes long. Yeah, and it's you know, it's got some bums on seats. People go and see a horror movie. Let's go and see Baghead.
Yeah.
And then you're done.
Yeah.
In a way, there's kind of not enough movies out there like that.
Yeah, no, I like that too. I like how it's, you know, it's not epic. It's not 3 hours where we're sat here and sort of wondering where it's all going and how it's going to wrap up. I like the fact that it keeps it short. I think that can be quite good.
Yeah, right. So obviously we all knew what the film was going to be about this time. So we knew what the twists were going to be. We knew where it was going to land. What did you get out of it this time round? Looking a bit closer at maybe not just purely at Iris's story, but the surrounding world for her. Did you pick up anything different? Did you find some more meaning or connect some more dots?
I was actually surprised that I enjoyed it in a slightly different way. Like the first time there were a few more sort of chills, I guess. And I remember the first time I saw it, I mean, could have been because I was in a cinema, but I remember it being a lot darker. whereas this time in terms of visually. And I remember thinking at the time, oh God, you wouldn't want to watch this on a sunny day. You won't be able to see anything. But watching it back, even though we were sort of in a bit of a darkened room, I found that I actually, sort of saw more of the sets, I guess, this time. So I really thought the way that the pub's all done up, I mean, it just looks like a really cool old, English or British pub, like a really ancient one. It kind of really gave that aspect to it. But I was surprised that I enjoyed it, kind of almost the same way, like to the same level, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, which surprised me because I was a bit sort of apprehensive about, okay, first time round, it was an okay film, kind of enjoyed it. Am I going to like it as much the second time, or is it going to be a bit of a slog? And it wasn't a slog. In terms of what I picked up in newness, I think I'd said last time I was looking for more in her origin story, and there wasn't really that much more to pick up. So I was a bit disappointed in that. I think I sort of got all of that the first time round.
She wants to go to art school.
Yeah. Oh, Iris. Oh, sorry, I meant the witch's Baghead's origin story, not Iris.
Yeah, that was just,
Iris is a bit of an open book there.
Yeah.
No, the witch. Sorry, that was the person I was hoping to get more of their origin, and I kind of got it mostly first time round.
Mm.
But what about you, Adam?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, I actually ended up seeing, I don't know, when you see it for the first time, it's like, it's fresh and you're along for the ride and you're at the cinema and, it's got some creepy moments and a couple of jump scares and good sets and all of that. And the second time around, I felt like I just kind of, it felt flimsier to me. Like, I sort of had even more questions. Like, why was the real estate agent, why was it up to this real estate agent to sign over? Why couldn't he just sign the deed himself? And how did the father inherit why was she the inheritor of this property? How did the father inherit it? What's the lineage there?
Well, maybe Dad bought the property at some point thinking it would be a good idea. Maybe he'll suck it in.
Well, it's a valid question because there's the photo of what we're presuming was the previous owner, that Otto. I know his name's not Otto, it was something to that
I
effect.
think it was Otto.
Yeah, I think it was Otto.
And because the picture was him with a younger version of the lawyer kind of guy.
Yeah, that's right.
And so how did that connection happen is a valid question.
So they're obviously in cahoots in the dark brotherhood. I found that a bit naff too.
Yeah, well, I'm going to suggest that he probably wasn't really a solicitor.
No.
But he just kind of jumped at her at the start of the show.
Yes.
And just went, hey, I'm a solicitor.
Yeah.
Come to this office, which we find out later is clearly not his office.
Yeah.
No, and she was obviously at a coroner's building, so she's a miscellaneous person. So how he knew that was her?
So he was very much keen on her being the custodian, like she needed to be, like it was preordained.
But it was also, I thought, a little bit interesting because if she, I don't know, maybe it's knowing who your mark is in terms of, doing a con. But if she'd been the type of person who would have gone, oh no, this place is gross, Dad burnt to death here, what?
Well,
no thanks.
I think he wanted her to not take it.
That's right.
I don't think he was trying to. I think he was like, just sign this and I'll take care of it.
Actually, that's right.
But what was he going to do with it,
But
I
he
guess
had to
would be the
offer it.
question.
Well, why did he even offer it?
I guess 'cause
Someone needs to be in charge
there's
of
laws of it all, I suppose. It's the next of kin, but he's probably going.
But he's not even a real lawyer.
But he wants it back. But he wants it back in the brotherhood. So
sign it over to yourself.
Well, he couldn't.
I don't think it works that way because we saw that with Neil. Neil was like, "I'll put my name on this," and he couldn't do it.
But why
They have
not?
to-
Because Iris was alive.
But I guess my thing is, again, why did it have to go to Iris?
Well, it didn't have to go to Iris. He could have sold it to you if you signed it willingly.
Oh no, it was in the dad's will.
I don't. No, he
No,
didn't
Dad
have a
didn't
will.
have a will.
No, it was basically the previous owners died.
Yes.
So then it's up for grabs.
So it's
if you,
open slate.
if you willingly sign it, then it's your property now.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that confused me about that little chestnut was at the end. So Iris has died, which is very similar to what her dad did. He died.
Yes.
He didn't have to be brought back to sign it over to
No,
Iris.
that's the thing. It fell to the lawyer. The lawyer's like, okay, this is up
So
to
I
you.
don't know why Neil thought I'll bring her back to sign it over to me because it wasn't necessary.
No. Yeah, he could have just gone to the lawyer.
Yeah, gone to the
or just signed it
lawyer. Or waited for
himself.
the lawyer to appear.
No one was going to contest it.
Yeah, exactly. What about you, Mark?
That I guess is exactly. Sorry, that's exactly my point. I saw the holes, more of the holes in the lore of the thing this time.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to have a look more into was a little bit to do with the backstory of that sort of dark brotherhood and such. Was a little bit more about her friend Katie and how Katie, because I feel like Katie was wasted a little bit in this case. I don't know. I didn't really get that vibe first time around, but this time around, because I was focusing a bit more on her role, she was the voice of reason. She was the voice of the audience saying, this is stupid. Don't do that.
Yeah.
You've literally watched a videotape that said, the more you do it, the stronger she gets. Don't do it. And then, but then they sort of, just for the sake of exposition, said, oh, she's just happened to have found this old country house that's, you know, boarded up, but happens to have all the, you know, CSI charts with the strings attached to it.
Yeah.
That apparently covers generations worth of ownership.
Yeah.
But then, you know, with the whole, how do we break the curse? How do we get out of the side? And then instead, when the Otto bloke comes back, he just kills her. Or Baghead.
Yes.
As Baghead. And you just sort of go, oh, that seems a bit of a waste. If anything, she just existed to be able to try and get Iris to go through the hole in the wall.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. To sort of, because she had a loyalty to her. Iris had the loyalty to Katie to try and find her. And so that whole, I don't know, that whole little piece, I mean, it is starting to get a bit nitpicky or whatever, but, and I mean, I don't know German geography, but I would have thought just, you know, Otto's house, Friedland or wherever it was, isn't enough detail to find a wee little shack out in the woods. I just would have thought you'd need more to be able to locate that.
Yeah, but do you really want a montage of her knocking on a lot of wrong doors?
No, but I just sort of thought maybe a wee Google or maybe like just write on the back of the photo, number 12.
Just to make it a little bit simpler.
Yeah, number 12, Tree Street, Friedland.
Oh, well, it was convenient enough there was a name on the back of a grubby old photo anyway.
Yes. Well, and it popped off the wall, especially for her, so.
Interesting point. Why does that particular one pop off the wall?
Yeah, well, Otto had something to say. From beyond the grave.
Not much, though, unfortunately.
No.
Very little.
No. And was he the ghost that she saw in the pub?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, then that kind of ties up because at the end when he's giving her, you know, the backstory and then he's like, hang on, you're not the owner. He must have thought she was the owner when he threw the photo at her and was trying to give her a bit of a heads up and tell her what was happening. He was actually trying to help and then, well, Baghead was involved, so it went south after that.
Poor old Baggy. I'm with you though, Adam. Like, why didn't Baggy at least just get a name? Why couldn't we just say she was once Daniela or Katarina or something? Yeah.
Like in Otto's big sort of backstory for Baghead, this big sort of exposition dump is like, yes, they found a woman who was able to channel the dead and they branded her, which is like, she could talk to the dead. She was so weird. They didn't brand her or anything.
It's pretty much it, yeah. You're like, you're not really stretching too far to go. Yeah. She's already kind of doing magic.
Yeah.
But even then, there's a little bit of it. They're like, so they prisoned her and she just put up with that.
That was just kind of a hokey, kind of fun. Actually, the first time I watched it, I thought that was all cool. I was like, okay, I'm in now. And so watching it this time, I was like, that's so stupid. And it's just kind of like, just a brief kind of little colourful backstory for Baghead, really. She may not even really need, in a way.
Well, I don't know. She's meant to be, you know, centuries old. So, and meant to have this gift, this power, and there'd be a reason, you know, why she was locked away and why people were keeping her there. And
that was another thing that I picked up this time around. So she wakes up from, the girl, the main character, has a dream. And then she wakes up, she's being choked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, okay, so you actually have, Baghead can actually move things, physically control things in the real world environment. That doesn't make any sense. And if that is true, she could totally have done measures to escape of her own steam earlier, you know?
Yeah, it kind of starts to crack that door open. But I think there was a point sort of early on where somebody said, either a dad or someone else, that she had control over Baghead to a point.
To a point.
And I think that was the thing, because even like when they're in there and, they're channeling the different people and deceased relatives, like I would like to see, what was the nice ending of the 2 minutes, because it always went a little bit off piste. So it would be interesting to kind of see how is it meant to run on a smooth day,
When people follow the rules and go, okay, you have a minute 30 and then just give it 20 seconds as a wrap up.
Yeah, exactly. And then Baghead's going to obey. And it'll all be, nice, and we'll go upstairs and have a coffee. So, yeah.
£2,000, thanks.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right.
Well, look, there's a lot of those. And I guess it's all about the strength. Because, you don't want to nitpick too much, but there's the point where Dad says to her, I tried to leave and come and see you. So who kept Baghead in the pub then?
Yeah, exactly.
Because if they're all like, you can't let her out, but I left.
Yes.
So you're like, what are we saying, that a locked door is all it took to stop this 400-year-old witch from being able to get out?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe as long as you keep thinking to yourself, don't leave the basement, Baghead, I'm thinking about you. Maybe that's enough.
Yeah, all they even needed was a tenant that had a bit of restraint.
Well, that's where they sort of get towards the end, where Iris is like, I'm just actually going to close the hole in the wall. And you're like, yeah. Probably makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Just close
Just
it over.
block it up again.
Yeah.
A little bit crazy. So, what was really good is we've actually been able to reach out to the director, and we, for all our lovely viewers here, and listeners, and we put just a couple of quick questions to him, because obviously in the world of Thrice, we do things in a roundabout manner, but we sort of try and keep our questions short, sort of in lots of 3 as well, perhaps. So, probably following on a little bit from what we've just been talking about, one of the questions we put to Alberto was whether he considers Baghead to be an urban folk horror story. With that idea being that there sort of is that closed community of people who know the secret of Baghead. Sort of had that vibe that, could be something could be classed that way. So before I let you guys know what Alberto's answer was, what do you guys think?
Was it an urban folk tale?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yes. I would say very much so. But, I can't even actually say with any accuracy. I don't know what the tenets are of a folk story. Really.
But I guess if you're thinking about it in terms of maybe even like fairy tales, like something like a Grimm's fairy tale, like the original ones, which I think were from that kind of area of Europe, it does have that dark connotation. It's like, well, here's this kind of like fairy godmother who will show you your people who have passed away, but be careful what you wish for. And sometimes, it always had that undercurrent, well, I don't know, I'm making this up, I'm assuming, an undercurrent of a moral or ethical sort of...
Yeah, they have a message to them.
Message.
And this, I feel like this movie is a missed opportunity there. I think it had a chance to really sort of, to be about grief or the importance of accepting death. And it doesn't do that. It goes a pretty prosaic kind of way instead.
But I guess in terms of that, it is almost sitting inside that urban or that folk tale, that folk... of, let the dead lie, basically.
Yeah. Well, so this is what Alberto's response was when I put that to him. He said, "You're onto something there." Yes. Although, now I am quoting here, people. Although, to be honest, I never approached it looking at the subgenre it could be classed as. I'm a big fan of paganism and of the historical background of the witch hunt that swept Europe, mostly Germany, during the 16th and 17th centuries. I wanted to take that concept and create a story where one of these entities or creatures was created through the oppression that pagans suffered at the hands of Christianity. They created this powerful being and built a prison, being the pub, to exploit her gifts. So, to some extent, yes, they brought the dark powers of nature to an urban setting by doing that.
Yeah.
Very, very cool that he got back to us.
Yeah.
And responded to us. We do appreciate that greatly.
Yes, and on the back of that too, was lucky enough to have a little bit of a chat with the original writer of the short piece as well, who was one of the producers on the film, which is Lorcan Riley. And I put the same question to Lorcan about whether he considered it to be an urban folk tale. His answer was a bit more succinct than Alberto's. He simply said that urban folk horror, would be a good way to describe it.
Jolly good. That's why he writes short films.
Yeah.
He's a man of a few words.
Short and sweet.
Yeah.
Now, one thing we're looking at, obviously, as we start moving into what will be our third viewing of things, is we've talked about bringing some external things from reviews and that sort of thing into it. And one of the areas which will be an interesting one for this particular film is a movie called Night Swim. So Night Swim was directed by Bryce McGuire, and that also started life as a short film. And Bryce McGuire was involved in the creation of Baghead as well. So I did put a question to Alberto around that, and I just asked him that had Bryce McGuire started working on the feature-length version of Night Swim when he got involved with Baghead? Both films share a theme of accepting loss, and we were curious as to whether that was something that Bryce brought to the film. So Alberto's response was, and I quote, "The central story and the themes had already been there with Christina's script," Christina being the other person involved with the screenplay. "Bryce came to the project through the guys at the picture company, who had worked with him before and thought we could use his experience in horror. When we discussed the story, we agreed on the central theme, which is grief. He completely understood that this was a story about people who cannot, or do not want to, get closure. Indeed, parallels do exist between the two stories as they both explore the dynamics of families grappling with loss and their challenges in addressing it, but I do think they're quite different. He had been working on the feature transfer of Night Swim for years since he shot the short film, and it was just a coincidence that we released both movies almost at the same time." But yeah, so when we come to our next recording, listeners, we'll actually have also had a viewing of Night Swim just to help for us to sort of do some contrast there, just for a... I know we talked in the last episode about Talk to Me and the parallels there. In this case, we'll be looking at the parallels between Night Swim, which Bryce McGuire was involved with as well. So, yeah, so with the grief side of things, you were saying just before, Adam, you feel the film sort of missed the point a couple of times there. Do you think the grief message is stronger for watching it the second time around, or do you think it's not as pronounced?
Yeah, I think it's not as pronounced. I think especially, I think the best part of the entire movie is when Neil confronts his wife, and you can see how confused and scared and upset the wife is. And it has this whole thing of this was a bad idea. You shouldn't sort of tamper with the dead. It's cruel, it's immoral, and it's not helping anyone. And so that, I think, is the best sort of scene in the whole thing. And it just occurred to me on the second viewing that they probably really did, obviously, by what you were just saying there, they did want it to be about sort of grief and the importance of accepting loss. But it doesn't go that way. The the last 2/3 of the movie are about Baghead, when I'm starting to think they probably should have been more about the people left behind.
Yeah, I think it would have been a very different film had it gone that way, and maybe Baghead would have been
use Baghead as a vehicle to explore these people's grief, but instead it became about Baghead, where Baghead's from. Baghead wants to get out. How do we stop Baghead getting out? Baghead,
Yeah. So I think that would have been a very different sort of.
It would have been
horror,
more artsy, I guess.
Yeah, more artsy, definitely.
That's what I want.
Well, yeah. But yes, I think in terms of the grief aspect the second time around, I think I sort of felt it more the first time in terms of Iris's loss. And when she was sort of finding the photos of her dad and realising her dad had come to visit to try and see her at one point, I felt that was much more potent the first time. Second time around, it sort of seemed to have lost a little bit in it for me. But I guess also there's the element of the grief she experiences when Katie dies as well. So that's another sort of layer to it. And I think, just moving away from that aspect a little bit, the way Iris gets taken out, the way she dies in the end, I thought it was really simple, which, normally in a horror film it's something, weird. It's knives or getting hit by a brick or something or else. So just to actually being basically dropped off a roof was quite simple and very sort of human in a way. It sort of was just a very,
Well, it was very intimate too, because Neil was right there to be able, to let her go.
Yeah, and it was just,
From a grief point of view, he can't let his wife go. Can let Iris go.
So that was, different. So I think on the third viewing, we'll have to give our ratings, our bags out of 10, see if they've changed on this second view. But then also, having a look at, obviously, like we've been saying, we'll have a look at Night Swim before we watch it a third time.
And the short film as well. So Alberto's been kind enough to forward us a link so we can watch the short as well, because unfortunately the Australian DVD, we were hopeful it would have a DVD release that would have that short as an extra, but not to be, but that's okay. Alberto's come through on that for us, which is wonderful.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to that. I predict that I think it'll be hopefully a much more successful short film, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that'll be something to really chew over on the third, on our third meeting on this film.
Yes. I'm interested though with the grief element. Just quickly, I know we're sort of getting towards the end of the episode here, but what's Katie's grief? Is Katie's grief the fact she can't let go of Iris, who's probably in a self-destructive kind of spiral, because she does successfully leave, but then it's her inability to just go, that's Iris's mess. She needs to live with it. She's a grown adult. She could, because Katie could have left.
Yeah.
But her inability to let go of that, I suppose, that friendship, which was a toxic kind of friendship, really.
Yes. Yeah. That was forged when they were young. I don't know. I don't think there was any grief for Katie in that, because she didn't let go of it right up until the end. She was always jumping in to try and save Iris. At one point, even she physically got in between Neil and Iris to protect her. So I don't think there was any grief there, because there was nothing to grieve. She was still fully immersed in that relationship and being a saviour. So yeah, probably the grief was just at the end when she was like, bugger, back the wrong horse here.
Back the wrong horse. I'm pretty sure she wasn't thinking bugger.
Or maybe something was
British,
going,
I'm sure would have been like,
damn
Botheration.
and bother.
blast it all. That's a lovely British impressions there. Alrighty then. Well, so last time round, Trace, you were the leader. You gave 7 bags to this film. Now you've watched it again. Does it still hold 7 bags worth of enjoyment and entertainment for you?
Yes, I think it's still holding 7 bags. It, as I said, I was surprised. I was sort of expecting a bit of a, oh God, okay, a bit of a slog or something perhaps. But no, it actually held its footing. So it'll be interesting to see in the third viewing with some extra input and some extra insight into how it sort of perhaps evolved, where those bags will be. But yeah, 7 bags still for me. Still solid for me. What about you, Mark?
What about me? I gave it 6 bags last time round. Look, I'm probably holding firm on my 6 bags. I think still.
Still got a grasp on your 6 bags.
I do. I think it's above an average movie, and having watched it a second time, sort of now within the space of about 3 months, even sort of knowing what's still coming, there's still a lot to enjoy out of it. There's still a lot of good performances, sound design, lighting design, cinematography. It's all very good, and especially when you consider that it's Alberto's first feature film.
Yeah,
I think it's been put together really, really well.
Yeah, that's really good.
And even as you were talking about, it did feel darker at the cinema.
Yeah.
Perhaps. I feel like watching it at home here, it did see... the contrasts were more obvious. Like, you could see very much the choices to drain the colour as you went down to the basement. But, a lot of the light design, even in the bar, with some really interesting sort of blue, greens and yellow colours and things, was really good. Can
I say, though, also, for such an ancient sort of, abandoned pub, that was a very clean basement. Like, I don't know if Baghead's out there sweeping when she's not, working the chair, but
You're not going to put you're not putting
it was
your
immaculate.
you're not putting your Christmas tree down there. Let's be honest. You're
No,
not,
but it had props and different, like angel wings and statues and all sorts. But that floor, spick and span.
no, the robe is reasonably long.
Well, yeah.
Maybe
No
just
dust in.
no,
No dust. No dust on Baghead, that's for sure.
no flies on me. What about you, Adam? Where's your baggage?
I think I gave it 6 bags last time. The first viewing, second viewing, a bit of the shine sort of wore off with the cinema spectacle wasn't there. I'm going to give it 5.5 bags.
Ooh.
Yeah, it loses half a bag just because it had that. I don't know. I think like you were saying. I think just literally being in the cinema, does look good. It sounds good. I like the sets. And at home, it kind of lost a little bit of that, but it's still well made. I appreciate that it's a good, solid, sort of well-made, sort of passable horror movie. 5.5 bags.
So there you have it, kiddies. Uncle Adam's recommendation. If you can see it on the big screen, go and check it out there. So probably just about wraps things up for this second part of our 3 parts. So it's the twice of the thrice, so to say. So from here, yet again, as we did last time round, it'll be a very short break for you, but it'll be a little bit of a longer break for us. It'll probably be another month or so, I guess, before we move on to our third and final viewing of Baghead. We'll be recording some other episodes in between times. And from this point, I think really, yes. So we'll thank you again for listening to part 2. If you've listened this far, we look forward to sharing part 3 with you. But at the moment, we'll say farewell to all the nice people. Say goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Farewell.
Bye.